Hey, how's it going? It's Keith Townsend from the CTO Advisor. VMworld 2020, much different event than it typically has been in years past. Obviously, it's a virtual event. VMware had over 100,000 people register for the event. But you know what? The conversation on Twitter just wasn't the same as it's been. We're still trying to figure out this virtual event thing. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person again, hopefully within the next year or two. So, what were the big announcements from VMworld 2020? Well, let's talk about what VMware likes to lead with in conversations. When you're thinking about the concept, does it run on VMware? What do you think of? I still think, does it still run inside of a VM hosted by VMware vSphere? I think VMware wants to push this any app, any cloud idea. Highly recommend you check out our study over on the CTOadvisor.com, in which we played around with each one of the major VMware cloud service providers and talked about, well, can you do any app, any cloud? VMware would like for us to think of the ideal of any cloud, any app as a concept of taking something like a Tanzu and running Kubernetes and VMware cloud services across any cloud provider, including your private data center. And what progress did they make on that? One, well, they decoupled Tanzu Grid, the thing that runs Kubernetes, from VMware Cloud Foundation, which means that if you just want the Kubernetes experience on your VMware vSphere 7.0 deployment, well, VMware now supports that. I don't know if I would suggest that you do that at scale, because VMware has very much put all of its eggs in the VMware Cloud Foundation basket, so to speak. When you think about virtualization, Kubernetes, application enablement, VMware Cloud Foundation is the foundation of that. So when you're thinking about using namespaces and Kubernetes APIs, vSphere abstractions, that stuff is mainly going to be supported at scale at VCF. Of course, VMware isn't going to abandon any of its enterprise licensing customers, but if you're thinking about the end-to-end experience, VMware Cloud Foundation is a foundation of the any app, any cloud method. What other major innovation is coming out of VMworld 2020? My most, I think, excitement is coming from Project Monterey. Outside of just a cool name that makes me want to visit the coast of California, Monterey is VMware's end game from when Chris Wolf showed us a couple of years ago of ESXi ARM running on SmartNICs. Back then, we kind of thought, yeah, this makes sense from VMware's telco play perspective. You could take ESXi, deploy VMs out to the telco edge, virtualize the network functions that a telco could use using ESXi. So a telco would write an ARM-based app, and he can run that app across multiple customers on the same physical network hardware. What VMware gave us was something a little bit different. I don't want to say a little bit different. It was quite different. If you look at Nitro system over at AWS, you can see why VMware went down this route. They extended the control plane and services of VMware Cloud Foundation to the SmartNIC. As you may know, we're seeing the rise of the DPU, or the FPGA, the data processing unit, decentralized compute, taking specialized ASICs that are programmable, that allows you to do a complex task repeatedly over and over at a high speed. So optimized compute. We see this all the time with GPUs and AI and machine learning. We're now seeing this in general workloads or general data center workloads. VMware being able to offload NSX-T functions vSAN functions, and even observability functions off to the DPUs in these smart NICs, and then lightening the load of your x86, requiring you to have either less x86 compute or optimizing that x86 compute to drive additional efficiency. What does this mean for the future of the data center and the present of most customers? Well, for the future of the data center, it's pretty exciting. VMware finance model or licensing model really wasn't telco friendly. And if you've heard Pat Gelsinger over the past 2 or 3 years, he believes the telco is the most lucrative and most powerful growth engine for VMware moving forward. But you're not going to get there by licensing multiple cores of ESXi on hosts sitting inside of the telco network. VMware needed a better model for this. Over on the blog, I kind of wrote this scenario as if you're a telco provider and you want to put 5G as far out to the edge as possible, a couple of hundred access points over, or radios and access points into, let's say, a stadium to handle a surge during a sporting event. Well, you can actually use that capacity to do more than that. What if you could sublease the capacity of something that size of an Intel NUC, but has the power of a smart NIC? You could resell capacity, compute capacity, to a game developer. That game developer could write a game for, let's say, fantasy sports football, and base it off a location and create clusters of players within the stadium that's completely secure from the 5G network infrastructure, at least logically. This is the vision of where VMware can take this type of service with their telco business. What about the regular data center? You're not going to build a 5G app and ARM-based code, etc. You're in a process of just, keeping the lights on and making sure SAP can move to SAP HANA, etc. Well, you kind of get the benefit of FPGAs without changing your application architecture, because VMware is moving stuff like erasure coding, encryption at rest, all of that to the smart NIC. Your data center becomes faster and more efficient, at least in theory, and for what we've seen with AWS Nitro, without you changing your applications. This is the promise of infrastructure and infrastructure technology, being able to improve the application by basically being invisible. So I'm pretty excited about Project Monterey. It is a really great innovation. It is a approach to VMware vSphere and VMware Cloud Foundation that I hadn't thought. Those are kind of the two major big picture things that I wanted to share with you out of VMworld. Is there something that you think I missed? Was there something that really caught your eye as you're going over the content from VMworld 2020? And you're saying, Keith, you're missing this innovation in end-user computing and security. The Salt Stack acquisition is really interesting, and that's going to empower Tanzu in ways that we're not aware of yet today if VMware can execute. Share those ideas and thoughts with me in the comment section below or on Twitter at CTO Advisor. Let's get a little conversation going around VMworld 2020. Talk to you next, CTO Dose.